The Iowa State football team improved to 4-2 with a win over West Virginia on Saturday. Iowa State freshman running back Breece Hall had a breakout performance, rushing for 132 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Cyclones used a dominant second half to defeat the Mountaineers 38-14. The Iowa State volleyball team became battle-tested over the week, losing 3 close sets to the top-ranked Baylor Bears and then falling in their match to Texas Tech 3-1. Cyclone InCYders starts now. Welcome to Cyclone InCYders. I'm your host, Ben Olson, joined at the desk with Bravard and John Miller. And guys, we're at that midway point in the season. 6 games done in college football for our Cyclones. 4-2 record, 2-1 in conference play to start. So they traveled to Morgantown, West Virginia this week to pick up their second nice win in a row, where they defeated West Virginia 38-14. And that's in a game that was tied 14-14 at halftime. It's really a dominant second half performance from the Cyclones. Breece Hall, the Iowa State freshman running back, had a breakout game for Iowa State. 26 carries, 132 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And he really picked up the slack in what has been one of Brock Purdy's worst games statistically wise, which really, he didn't even have that bad of a game, guys. So let's kind of start. Let's get some of your general thoughts on that performance by Iowa State. John, what'd you think of the Cyclones?
I a couple weeks ago I talked about, I really want to see that run game come to life, and I mean we saw it this week. Breece Hall balled out. I mean, after this performance, you really wonder if he's going to be the bell cow going forward out of what we've been kind of shuffling running backs before. So, I really thought that it was great for Cyclone fans to see, that run game.
Yeah, they certainly had us fooled. Of course, Johnny Lang had that great game against TCU, but Hall had his number called, and he stepped up big time in that 28 jersey. Jared, you got any thoughts to add?
Oh, yeah, so not only did Breece have a breakout rushing game, he also did very well in the pass protection. Seemed just about every play that he wasn't running, he was picking up some sort of blitz or some linebacker coming in on something, giving him a chip, and then breaking out into his route. So that was very nice to see that not only did he get it done on the ground, but also in the pass protection.
Yeah, that's a great point, and something that I was going to bring up is we haven't seen that out of any of Iowa State's running backs really this year, and he was able to pick up some linebackers that were much bigger than him as a freshman, and really kind of boost this Iowa State passing game in what was a lackluster day otherwise. So, I mean, we've talked about Breece all we can. He was voted Big 12 Newcomer of the Week with Jalen Hurts this week. But who else on offense impressed you guys? Jerry, did you have like one player that stood out to you?
Yeah, I'm going to go LaMichael Petway. Did not get any catches against TCU, but kept working and had some very timely catches in the game on Saturday in Morgantown. 8 of them for 81 yards, and didn't seem to be concerned after his no-catch game against TCU. Came right back out, went to work, and was there for the Cyclones when they needed him.
Yeah, he was kind of the level-headed upperclassman for Iowa State in this game, where they were able to pick up their first road victory, which we know makes a difference. What about you, John? Did you have someone on offense that you liked?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with another receiver, Joseph Skates, first career touchdown this week. I saw a picture of him, hugging Campbell after, he must have yelled at him last week at TCU. So just really nice to see him kind of get involved in the offense and see if he's going to be a big contributor, going forward as an underclassman. So,
yeah, people were laughing a lot about that photo of Skates hugging Campbell on the sidelines compared to a week ago where you've got Campbell giving him the death glare after he picked that fight. And we talked all about the offense, but enough can't be said about this Iowa State defense. Coach Haycock had a great game plan again, and West Virginia lost their starting quarterback in the first half. But a lot of people would argue that Allison, their backup quarterback, is almost a better quarterback than Kendall, which I think I would agree with. I think Kendall was a little overrated transferring from Oklahoma. So it was great to see that defense stick in the game and had a shutout in the second half. Who defensively, player-wise, had a great game for you guys, John?
I think Mike Rose, personally for me, he's transitioned to outside linebacker this year from his middle linebacker position last year with Orion Vance stepping up to a bigger role. But, shutting that run game down early and then forcing them to pass, that was kind of a big thing in the game, in my opinion. So I think Rose was definitely a big contributor in that aspect.
Yeah, he had that great lawnmower crank start, fumble strip. But we talked a little bit about West Virginia's injuries, but let's not forget this Iowa State defense was banged up, guys. They're without Jaquan Bailey for possibly the rest of the season. Orion Vance went down with that concussion in the first half. And then Greg Eisworth did not play this game at safety for Iowa State. So the secondary really stepped up big against the potent West Virginia pass offense. Jared, who'd you like on defense this week?
I liked Braxton Lewis this week, coming in,
Great choice.
Just continuing his success for Iowa State, just consistent player week after week, making plays, picked up one of the fumbles that was caused, I believe the Mike Rose one, and just helping fill in for Eisworth in that secondary. Good stuff out of Lewis this week.
For me, I'm going to go with the guy we sort of talked about last week, continuing some consistent play on the defense for Iowa State on that D-line. Zach Peterson, of course, had a couple sacks in this game, so really great for him to be able to get some pressure on our D-line for us. All right, guys, like I said, we're at the halfway point of the season. 4-2, 2-1 in conference, so we still control our own destiny. They kind of have to win out, which is always tough in the Big 12, especially with Oklahoma and Texas on your schedule left. But like I said, it's the midterm part of the semester. What kind of a grade would you guys give this Iowa State team overall? Who wants to start?
I'll take it. I guess for me, I think that they're probably at a B for what my expectations were for this season because I kind of expected them to drop one of these games to Baylor or TCU early in the season and then, Oklahoma and Texas later. Those are going to be some tough games. But as for a lot of fans, I think they probably would think a lot more C because, they kind of thought this year might be the year we were going to compete for a Big 12 title and be right there with Oklahoma, but kind of fell short a little bit of that. I mean, it's out of the picture unless Oklahoma was to fall to Texas was going to fall to somebody, so. And obviously Baylor's right there too, so, I give them a B overall for me, I guess.
Jared, what you got on that grading scale?
I'll give them a B+. I think from a general fan standpoint, it seems like a little bit of a letdown so far with those two early losses, but the losses that they were very much in the game, could have pulled it out at the end. And under the circumstances with all the injuries that have happened so far, I think they've bounced back well from that. It's been the next man up mentality of no matter who needs to have a day, they seem to come through. So those two losses by 3 points, it's not too concerning. So I'll go with B+.
Right. The losses really, I think at the end of the season we'll look back and say, man, we should have won those games. But at this point, they don't look too terrible just yet.
Especially with Baylor winning last week. That helped us out a lot.
Baylor's off to that undefeated start so far. But that Iowa game, I think, might come back to haunt us with the way they've been playing in the Big Ten. But I'm going to also go with a B+, just like you, Jared. I think if you take into consideration the injuries that this team has had and, just the flat-out bad luck with the weather delays and the lightning delays. Coach Campbell is somebody who can't seem like he can catch a break when it comes to weather at Jack Trice Stadium. But I think you've had some players that have disappointed in this season. I've been a little disappointed in Nwangwu. He had that bad game against West Virginia. But then you look at the people who stepped up for Iowa State this year, like the Zach Petersons and the Breece Hall and the Braxton Lewis. So if they can continue to get guys that are making big plays, then they'll be just fine. Like you said, 2 losses by 3 points is nothing to worry about. And October started just like we thought it would under Matt Campbell. So let's turn our attention to the Red Raiders, huh, guys? Second road game in a row. We're going to travel to Lubbock where they'll play Texas Tech, who's 3-3 on the year. But just last week, Texas Tech took Baylor, who's undefeated, to double overtime, just like Cyclones had a close game. So I expect this one to be a battle. Jared, why don't you start? What are your keys for Iowa State in this game?
Keys have just been continuing to do what they have been. Against TCU with that early scoring, I think it's going to be crucial to jump out to an early lead down in Lubbock. And with the defense, you just got to kind of bend but don't break. Lubbock, I mean, Texas Tech is known to score a lot of points, especially at home over the years. So I think we got to get out to an early lead and have that defense hold them off enough to come out with a win.
John, what's your keys to the game?
Yeah, going off that kind of early lead, I want to see them establish that running game again this week early. I mean, Brees Hall, 26 carries, 132 yards. Going into this week, you got to think Texas Tech's going to kind of key on him a little bit. So, you know, I'd like to see us be able to run the ball five yards of play, start the game, open up that pass for Purdy. So, you know, I really think establishing that run is going to help the Cyclones get out to an early lead and, you know, end up winning by 20. So,
can I get some predictions? Do you guys think that Brees Hall will lead Iowa State in carries again this game, or are we going to mix it up? Because I think it seems a little more that Coach Manning is just going with who has the hot hand.
Mm-hmm.
But Brees looked good at the same time.
He did.
He did.
I would say he will lead in carries, but not 26. It's going to be about 15 to 20.
And he probably won't put down 132 yards,
Correct.
although we'd take that.
Yeah, we would.
Well, speaking of predictions, it's time to hop into the Cyclone InCYders Pick'em segment. Pretty good weeks for me and Jared last week, both going 2-1, only 3 games, so it was a light load. So you can see our standings there for the season. Jared, if standing at 500, is leading the pack. Not overly impressive out of the 3 of us. But let's jump into this Iowa State at Texas Tech game. Iowa State on the road is favored by 6, riding a 2-game winning streak. Jared, the leader, who you got in this one?
I have Texas Tech in this one. I think Iowa State comes out with a win, but it's going to be a lot closer than 6. Maybe finishing like 3 or 4 points. So I got the Texas Tech on the cover.
You got Tech covering, but Iowa State with the win.
Of course.
Okay,
yes.
that's the important part. What about you, John?
I'm gonna go Iowa State. Like I said, I think we're gonna break them down and in the second half kind of pull away a little bit. So I expect about 17-point wins to cover that. So
I'm also gonna go with Iowa State in this one. I am gonna ride the hot hand with the Cyclones. I think they could pull out another big win, just like the West Virginia game in this one. Hopefully they can catch Texas Tech a little depleted. But regardless, it'll probably be a good game. You never know what's going to happen in the Big 12. Next game, West Virginia has to travel to Norman to take on the Sooners. Sooners are favored by 33.5 points. John, who do you have covering in this game?
Last time I went with Oklahoma when they were projected by 30+, it did not work out. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Oklahoma this week.
What about you, Jared? Who you have?
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts just still looks unstoppable, even though they only beat Texas by 7. It was a late score by Texas to make that. So, I mean, it's in Norman, West Virginia. Questionable with Kendall this week. And so give me Oklahoma at home.
Yeah, 33.5 is a large spread, you guys. I'm going to go with West Virginia to cover. I think Oklahoma will win the game. I think Allison will be starting again for West Virginia. I expect him to throw the pigskin around on Oklahoma a little bit. I think they'll put up some points. So Oklahoma will win, but not by 33.5. Next one is TCU at Kansas State. TCU a 3.5-point favorite. This one's going to be a close game. I'll start. I'm actually going to ride with TCU, the Horned Frogs, on the road. K-State seems to have some things that they need to figure out. I think TCU's getting hot again in the Big 12, so I'm going to go Horned Frogs here. Jared, what do you have?
I actually have K-State in this one. Haven't been on their side here yet this season, but I think coming off a bye and in Manhattan, I think they cover that 3.5.
Yeah, I could see that. What about you, John?
I'm going to go TCU. Kansas State, I guess, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think they lived up to their expectations of, a newer coach and everything like that. I kind of expected them to, blossom a little bit more than they have, but I just expect TCU to win in a close one here.
All right, next one. Baylor, undefeated, is traveling to Oklahoma State, but Oklahoma State is favored by 3.5 in this one. John, we'll hop back to you. Baylor at Oklahoma State, who you got covering?
I'm going with the Bears. Undefeated so far. I would just, ride in that win of sorts against Texas Tech, although the refs may have given them a little advantage. But, I think they'll take care of Oklahoma State just fine.
I've been on a trend of picking against Baylor here lately, and I finally got one right last week when Tech played a close game with them. But I think I'm going to have to go with Oklahoma State to cover in this one. I think they're going to hand Baylor their first loss of the year on the road. Baylor can't get lucky this many games in a row, can they? I mean, they can't. They've been playing some tight games.
Yeah.
Jared, who do you have?
Yeah, echoing what you said. Baylor's scraped by a couple games now, and it's in Stillwater, so give me the Cowboys.
Their wide receiver's out too, as well, isn't he? Mims or whatever, Denzel Mims.
Mims is?
Yeah, I
believe he
think
is.
he
That's
got
a big
injured.
loss for
Yeah.
Baylor.
All right, last one. Kansas at Texas. Longhorns coming off of that Red River rivalry loss. Jared, why don't you start? Who you have covering? And Texas is favored by 22 points.
They are. Given that they came off that hard loss to Oklahoma and they're back at home, I'll take Texas minus 22 over Kansas.
I'm also going to jump on that train. I think the Longhorns will come out with a little fire under their butts, and I think they're going to hand Kansas a whooping. What about you, John?
I'll go with the Longhorns. I can't, Kansas is kind of reverting to their old ways a little bit by getting blown out by teams, so I'm going to go with the Longhorns.
So there you have our picks for the Cyclone InCYders Pick'em segment. Seems like John and I have a few little different picks than Jared, so it'll be fun to come back next week, see if we can catch up to him in the standings, or he's going to have a solid lead. Stay tuned to find out. Let's jump over to some Cyclone volleyball now, you guys. Like we talked about last week, Iowa State has this 3-game home stretch against some tough competition. After doing some more research, I think we failed to inform you just about how good Baylor was. #1 team in the nation came into Hilton last Wednesday to take on the Cyclones. Baylor had won 22 straight sets coming into this game, and unfortunately they made it 25 straight with a 3-game sweep of Iowa State. But you guys, the girls looked really good in this volleyball match. That first set was 24-26. Iowa State lost it on really a controversial call with a tip on a set over the net that just didn't go the Cyclones' way. It was tough for them to recover, but overall they played really good. Annie Hatch led the Cyclones with 10 kills. Condi had 6 blocks, and Mikhail Schuler was with 15 digs in the back row. What were your general thoughts on the match against Baylor? Because they did look pretty good, you guys. Jared, you got anything?
I was a little surprised, honestly, with how well Iowa State played. I knew they had a shot, given that it was here in Ames, but obviously Baylor, the best team in the country right now. And Iowa State had set points in both the first and the third set. So if they get that set right off the bat, then maybe the game looks a little different. But very impressive performance out of the Cyclones, and holding Yasani Presley, one of Baylor's best hitters, to a season low 156 hitting. She's been averaging over 300 all year, so I think that was impressive for me.
No, yeah, that was a fantastic point. Like you said, all around it was a pretty good game for the Cyclones. They just couldn't win those sets. They definitely came out fired up. And you look at Iowa State's best player, Eleanor Holthouse, she kind of had a tough match. She wasn't getting the kills that she's used to in Big 12 play so far. That could have made a difference in this game. But if we look at their next one then on Saturday, I think the Cyclones also played so good, just were not able to secure that win, you guys, losing to Texas Tech 3-1. And really, if you look at it statistically, Iowa State looks like the better team in this one. John, you got some things to add about this match?
Yeah, like you said, they were pretty similar in almost every offensive category. I think we even had them topped in a few. But, so 3-1, although, you'd see a box score and you'd say 3-1, and you'd think, it was more of a blowout. It was definitely evenly matched. And I even asked Ben before, should Iowa State have won that game? And it was kind of, in the air, but, you want to see them win those games going forward, especially, if they're going to live up to what they did last season. So,
Yeah, you look at this Texas Tech match as maybe is it one where they lost or did they get defeated? But Jared, is there anything you want to add about it?
Yeah, I mean, both these games surprising this week. Last week, they played better against Baylor than expected, but then played worse against Tech than expected. Especially after that Baylor performance, I thought they'd be able to handle Texas Tech.
Right.
Just fell a little short again. Got down early. Just wasn't able to dig out of that hole, so
yeah,
disappointing.
Texas Tech with that 11-6 record on the year. Iowa State dropped to 13-6, so two pretty evenly matched teams. Holthouse bounced back, leading the Cyclones with 14 kills and 5 blocks in that match. But the big thing that stood out for me, I don't know if you guys saw this, so the Cyclones had 5 aces, which is pretty good for this team, but Texas Tech had 8 aces for the whole game, and 4 of them came from their leading scorer, Emily Hill, so she really had her way with Iowa State. So you look at that in comparison to the Baylor game where they were able to shut down Baylor's best player. This one, Texas Tech's best scorer just got the best of them. And I think in those first 2 sets, the first one was 25-22, and then I think it was 26-24. So just not able to finish out those first 2 sets, which really would have been the name of the game and might have changed a lot about these outcomes. So you look at this Iowa State team now. They're young, 3-4 record at home. Do you think as they continue Big 12 play, they've got one more match at home, are they going to be able to figure out how to not let these sets slip away? Because that's going to be the difference between wins and losses, and it's just part of the maturity process. John?
Like you said, maturity, but I think a biggest thing for them is, they got a lot of people coming back off injuries, just kind of getting them back into the lineup. And, it can be tough when you, especially in volleyball, when you have to play with 6 new players and everybody plays differently, and then you got to come back with 2 players that were in there before. So, just adjustments, stuff like that. It'll be interesting to see how Lynch kind of handles that going forward. So.
Jared, what's one thing that you would like to see this young team do to kind of help them get over this hump?
I'd like to see them respond to how they played recently. Obviously, dropping these 2 games at home is not ideal, and getting down early in both of them as well. So I think just being able to bounce back, get up early in a set, take that first set, and get the momentum back up going in their favor.
Yeah, that'll be a big difference. And we're going to see if they're able to do it tomorrow night. They host the TCU Horned Frogs here at Hilton Coliseum, last of this 3-game homestand. TCU has a similar record to Iowa State, so it should be a good game. I think you should go out and support the Iowa State volleyball team. And then this Saturday, they're going to travel to Oklahoma, who also just lost to Baylor in 3 sets. But Oklahoma is undefeated at home this year, and Iowa State has been a pretty good road team this year, play-wise anyways. Do you guys think Iowa State has a chance traveling on the road in Norman?
I think they do. I think it's going to be a pretty close game, pretty competitive game. Could go to the 5th set. I think they'll be able to pull it out, but like you said, Oklahoma playing very well at home this year, so it'll be interesting to watch.
Right, John?
I think the Sooners will end up pulling it out, but, like Jared said, I expect it to be close, battle sets. But, I think Iowa State just, they need to find a way to kind of get out ahead early and not, get down 10-5 and then have to battle their way back. That's just really tough to do, so.
Yeah, another great week of Cyclone sports headed your way, though, you guys. I'm sure we'll all be watching. Football teams traveling to Lubbock. Make sure to cheer them on as they have another tough road game against the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Talked about those 2 games. Tomorrow night, go cheer on the volleyball team at Hilton. And follow the Iowa State soccer team as they continue on their quest, looking for that first Big 12 win of the year. We'll be there watching, and we'll be back next week with all the analysis that you guys need. As we say, go Cyclones.